DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unified philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we are getting into part 4 of our ongoing mini series here, How America Does Immigration Wrong. Before we get into this, remind you, get on my email list for free by going to workonmygame.com, get into my coaching program, and have me as your direct coach by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can learn more about who we work with. You can see our receipts. We got a lot of receipts as to who we worked with in the past, who we're working with right now in the present. And you're going to be the next person we work with in the future. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Learn more about that. Picking up where we left off, which again is point number 10. This is part 4 of our series, How America Does Immigration Wrong. Number 10, voting issues. I already touched on this one a good amount earlier in this series, but I'm happy to reemphasize it. During her failed 2024 presidential campaign, former Vice President Kamala Harris, she would use the phrase a path to citizenship. This is part of her conversation on immigration. We want to create a path to citizenship for everyone here in the United States. She was saying this very proudly, and she was speaking to her base, was exactly what she's supposed to do. The problem is every time she said that, she was also riling up a base against her, and turned out there was more people against her than there were for her, which is why she ended up losing the election. The issue with this path to citizenship is that people who could become citizens would be putting themselves in position to vote. And who are they going to vote for? They're going to vote for the party that allowed them into the country in the first place, the party that continues to support them and push for more of them, and the party that said, hey, we're going to give you a fast track to citizenship and gave you immediate legal status when you first got here, i.e. the Democrats. And as I told you earlier, this is a long-term play by the Democratic Party, not just by a candidate, but by the Democratic Party to expand their voter base, so therefore they can win more elections and therefore have more political power. That's what this whole game was. Again, that's just my theory as to why they're doing it. And they want to make it clear, Democrats making it very clear, they're the ones helping immigrants. They're the ones bringing them into the country. And again, this is a long-term game that they're playing. They get a bigger voter base, then they can win more federal elections, have, of course, executive power while winning presidential elections, but also controlling Congress, controlling the House of Representatives, controlling the Senate, and therefore they can push all of their agendas through and maybe even make federal law that would strike down a whole lot of the let's just call them parameters and standards at the border, to where this is federalized and codified. Therefore, even future presidents couldn't do anything to stop it. That's where they were headed. That's the direction they were headed with this, and doesn't mean it can't still happen. But this is one of the reasons why I've said this for many reasons. This is another reason why Donald Trump winning the 2024 election was both, number one, a huge slap in the face to the Democratic Party as to what Americans actually want. And number two, it stifled this speeding up process. It slowed down the velocity of a dissension into disorder and chaos that America was already headed towards. I think America is still headed towards disorder and chaos, despite the fact that Donald Trump won. Donald Trump is going to slow it down. He's going to stop a good amount of it from happening. The problem is he only has 4 years to be president, and then someone else is going to be in charge. I don't know if anyone else is going to come along that is as galvanizing as he is. Again, whether galvanizing positively or negatively, he's a galvanizing individual. Everybody can agree with that. And I don't know if his presence for 4 years is going to stop where America's headed. America is headed into disorder and chaos right now, even with Trump winning. He's going to do what he can, but there's only so much even one person can do, even with 4 years of time. So the Democratic Party is setting themselves up to win more elections by encouraging more immigration. And the Republican Party is smart to, I'm not saying this is the only reason why they push back on it, but they're smart to push back on it if for no other reason than just this. All right, and I fully understand why many Republicans will push back on immigration in general, even if it's just this reason as a hidden reason. None of them say this out loud, but the out loud reason is, bringing the wrong people in, and a very good and public reason is we have laws. We have laws and rules about immigration, and if you're violating them, you get kicked out. That's a good enough reason. You don't have to explain any other reason. Point number 11. Today's topic, once again, is how America does immigration wrong. Number 11, national security. This is one of the issues that America has claimed is an issue when it comes to an app called TikTok. They are saying they want to shut down, as of this recording, they want to shut down TikTok in America if TikTok does not divest by selling their business to an American-based company or American-based business owner. They say national security issues because China owns the app and the app can easily spy on people, and then China will be spying on Americans through the app. And I get what they're saying. I don't think that's the real reason why they're doing it, but I get what they're saying. Again, you got good reasons and real reasons. The real reason is that they want to have more control over every platform. They want access to the people who control the platform so they can have access to possibly controlling them, which controls the platform, which controls the flow of information. That's really what they want. And they're just using the national security thing as a pretext. And it's a good enough reason that people will buy it. But when it comes to national security with immigration, when you're allowing so many people to come into your country, especially when they are coming in undocumented and unvetted, you're going to have security issues. That's going to happen. You're going to get immigrants who are here illegally committing crimes. And what do you do with them? All right, they're not a citizen. What are you going to do? So you got to get rid of them. You got to ship them out. And we've heard many crimes committed by illegal immigrants here in this country. And you can look them up. And these people, when they're undocumented and not fully vetted, you get security issues. This is going to happen. You get crime. You get people not respecting or abiding by your laws. People who are hard to track down and catch when you don't even know who they are in the first place because they have no documentation, so you know who they are. This is a national security issue that only gets raised when something happens on the political side or someone who's on the political side supports the immigrant, let's say the Democrats, and they find a way to minimize the issue. That's what they do. They minimize the topic. And it belittles the value of Americans who may be affected by it all in the name of playing the political game, which is why all of these people are vile and nasty and not to be trusted. This is the problem that I have with it, is that on the Democratic side, when immigrants get brought into the country and someone's here illegally, undocumented, and they commit a crime, the Democratic Party has disowned that. Now, no politician ever just owns things. So I know I'm speaking in wishful terms here, but this is what they should. They should disown it and say, hey, we have allowed immigration here. Some of these people are doing the wrong thing. Hey, we want to let you immigrants know if you're going to come here, here's what you need to do. You need to learn a language. You need to assimilate. You need to do this, because these are the customs here in America. If the Democratic Party did that, then I would have much less of a problem with how immigration is working right now. But they don't do that, and that's why we have a problem. They aren't doing that. And when someone comes in here without proper documentation, because the Democrats relax the laws at the border and they do some crime, then the Democratic Party needs to be held accountable for that. Somebody needs to answer to that. Somebody needs to speak to that, but they don't do it. This is the issue. They find a way to walk around it and act as if it's not really an issue, which is why, again, this is leading people to have less trust in the government in general, because when it's obvious that the government is at fault, they still don't take ownership. So again, how many times are you going to see that before eventually you're not listening to anything that somebody says, or you're not trusting anything that somebody says? So when people are coming here undocumented, you get these kind of issues. Is this a national security issue? It absolutely is. And again, this only happens when the Democrats are finding a way to minimize these things, even though they indirectly have caused it or allowed it. So when I say the polarization of the issue and the politicalization of the issue, this is what I mean. Because this is why I say all these people are vile and nasty and not to be trusted, because their whole game is how do we make the Democrats winners for the next 10 to 20 years. It's not so much about what they can do for you. It's not about lowering the cost of your groceries. It's not about you being able to afford childcare. It's not about lowering your taxes. It's not about any of those things that politicians try to make themselves seem to be about. But then when they get in office, they don't do any of the shit that they said. All right, that's not what this is. What it is these people are doing whatever serves them. And if they need to use you in the process, so be it. So what? They use you in the process. What are you going to do? I mean, think about it. What are you going to do? That said, let's move on to point number 12. Today's topic, once again, is how America does immigration wrong. Number 12, increased population density. Population density is simply a measure of how many people are within a certain space radius, or let's say, for example, per square mile. Population density. New York City, for example, has a very high population density because there are a whole lot of people in a very small, confined space. That's why New York tends to build vertically instead of horizontally. But if you go to some suburban town where some of you live, then the population density is very low. You have a square mile with no humans. It may only be one house with two people in it. More people you put all in one place, all at the same time, the more opportunity for some things that you don't want to happen will happen. The more people you put all in one place at the same time, the more opportunity there is for something that you don't want to happen to actually happen. Because you're putting too many people all in the same place at the same time. That's how it works. You're just increasing the likelihood that something goes wrong here. Something bad happens just because you got all these people in one spot. Because there are people out there who are unscrupulous. There are people out there who are bad people. There are people out there who are nasty people. When they see an opportunity to take advantage of somebody, they're going to do it. Or take advantage of something that may violate other people's rights and freedoms. They're going to do it. Why? Because they see the opportunity. They are opportunists in a negative way. And they will use that opportunity if you give it to them or you leave it open to them. So when you're talking about a bunch of different people from different cultures who know nothing about each other and did not ask to be put in the same place together, but you dump them all into one place or one condo or one hotel, one apartment complex, this is what happened in many sanctuary cities where illegal immigrants were bussed in from these Texas towns, from Texas to these towns, and the mayors and governors of those places could not come out and say, hey, I don't want these people here, or they couldn't say anything that I've said here in this series because they are supposed to be holding a party line of welcoming the immigrants. This is the reason why when Mayor Adams in New York City, who was allegedly a Democrat, he started speaking out against the fact that these migrants, these illegal immigrants, and some legal with legal status were being bused into New York City. And when he started pushing back against that, he got a lot of pushback to the pushback because he's not supposed to be talking about it. He's not supposed to say that out loud. What he's supposed to do is hold that in and get angry about it in private, but he wasn't supposed to get angry about it in public. When he got angry about it in public, he got a lot of pushback from the Democratic powers that be. Because you're supposed to hold the party line of welcoming the immigrants, but as they say, reality often differs from the lab test. So the lab test said this is all going to be good. I'll be a sanctuary city. I'll call myself a sanctuary city. Not going to send anybody up here that's too far from Texas. You know what? Oh, here comes a bus of people. Or who are they? What do they want? How do you get here? Who sent them? And know the answer to all those questions. So reality differing from the lab test is the reason why you cannot believe political campaign promises, except in certain exceptional situations. I think the current president we have is a certain exceptional situation that he tells you you're going to do something. He's at least going to put an effort into doing it, as opposed to what we've seen from the other side of the political aisle over the last 4 years, or let's even say the last 25. All that said, everybody, let's recap today's class. This is part 4 of our ongoing mini-series, How America Does Immigration Wrong, number 10, Voting Issues. I believe that the Democratic Party is playing a long game to increase their voter block so that they can win more elections, and immigration is part of that. Bring in more people, let them turn red areas into blue areas. Now you can win that. Now you can win more elections. It's a long game play for the Democrats. Number 11, national security. You bring in a whole bunch of people into a country, or let a whole bunch of people into a country who are there undocumented, and they were already criminals in the past. And what are they going to do? They're going to be criminals here. They will find a way to commit crime here because they ain't got nothing else better to do. And the fact that they can't get a job, maybe they feel like they have no choice but to do crime. No such thing, but let's just say they believe that they have no choice but to do crime. They're going to do crime. This creates national security, and a national security issue is not just domestic because these people are not even from here. So you got to send them back somewhere, somehow, when you're done with them, even though they committed the crime here in America. And point number 12, last point, is that population density. So many people in a confined space on top of each other all at once. That's a recipe for things happening. Some kind of things are going to take place in that space. And when you have a clash of culture, there will be conflicts. All right, that's absolutely going to happen. And all these mayors who were calling themselves sanctuary cities, they're calling their town sanctuary cities, they found out what it really means to be a sanctuary city when those busloads of immigrants got dropped off at their doorsteps. They didn't think that was going to happen. When it started actually happening, that's when the situation changed. All that said, tomorrow we'll get into part 5, final part of our 5-part mini-series, How America Does Immigration Wrong. Between now and then, go to workonmygame.com, get on my email list for free, then go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, get into my coaching program, hand me as your personal coach to get to work on your mindset, your strategy, your systems, and your accountability to make sure we fully implement what needs to be done this year and not next year. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all